We are hearing SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. Yesterday we heard the Supreme One, who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul, is the Supreme Source of the cosmic manifestation as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus he is the Supreme Fountainhead, the Absolute Truth. This is Shukadev Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. Yo Dhyatmiko Yam Purushah Sosau Eva Di Daivika Yas Tatro Bhaya Vicheda Purusho Hyadhi Bhautikah. The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adidevik. For every sense, one demigod is controlling them. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adibhautik person. I'm trying to find this. Seen on the eyeballs. I'm trying to find. Because this is also a topic in Upanishad and in Vedanta Sutra. Who is the person in the eye? The Supreme Lord. Then that explanation is there. Yes. Trying to find. Not mentioned here. Yes. As far as. No, I'm not finding here this eyeball, but I remember that this is mentioned there. The Supreme Lord is the person who is in the eye, and it is explained what this means. Ekam eka tara bhave yada nopalabha mahe tritayam tatra yo veda sa atma svashra yashraya. All three of the above mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood. But the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the Supreme Shelter. The point is that we cannot know about Supreme Lord. Yesterday I mentioned one point, so today I got confirmation also in Canto Upanishad. The Yamaraj is teaching Nachiketa, son of one king, about Brahmagyan, means about Supreme Lord. So there is one verse, means he, that is Supreme Lord, is seated and walks far away. He is lying down and goes everywhere. Who except me can know this Lord endowed with contrary qualities? like joy and anger. This is the verse, but I like this part in the commentary. The person devoid of the Lord's mercy cannot understand the true nature of the Lord, since the Lord is most extraordinary. Those sitting and walking far, or lying down, and everywhere appear contradictory, these qualities manifest through the jivas, since the Lord dwells within them. Who can know the Lord having contrary qualities like joy and anger, Mada, Amadam, other than me, who has received his mercy? So this is the point. We cannot understand about transcendental reality with our material senses and intellect and mind like this. No, only if he reveals by his own mercy, then one can understand. And he will know, I can see, like Brahma, when he saw Krishna, we are hearing during Purushottamant, when he got the grace of Krishna, he also understood he got it, and he's seeing. So everything is known at that time, and they also know that no one can understand without his grace. So he told, no one can understand this. So unless we have that Shraddha awakened, if we are too much influenced by intellect, then we will think this is contradictory, it is all bogus, and we will become atheist. So only one who has enough Sukriti and has awakened faith and gets the grace of Bhagavan by practicing, then he can understand. You will find same point in when Sarvam Bhattacharya in Puri, he brought to his home Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he told that he is a young boy, he took sannyas, he will not be able to keep the sannyas vows of celibacy, and because he's very beautiful and young, so he has to hear Vedanta. Then he will get Vairagya, Gyan and Vairagya. All this world is false, and only spirit is true. Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. When he will understand this point, then he can have Vairagya. Then he can keep his sannyas. Then Gopinath Acharya, who is his brother-in-law, but he already knew Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadip. He knew Mahaprabhu is Supreme Lord. So he started to argue with Sarvam Bhattacharya, what you are saying, you will teach him something. You don't know who is he? He's Supreme Lord. Then Sarvam Bhattacharya argued, no, he is not Supreme Lord. And he gave all scriptural evidences. Supreme Lord appears only in 3 ages. So many arguments he gave. Then Gopinath Acharya understood, yes, you cannot understand without his grace. No one can understand by logic and argument and by shastric knowledge and by anything. Cannot understand. Then Sarvam Bhattacharya said, oh, you think I cannot understand and you can understand. How you know you can understand? Then Gopinath Acharya clearly said, because I received his grace. That is why I can know. When you will receive his grace, you will also know. Otherwise it is impossible. So later on it happened like that. When Sarvam Bhattacharya was astonished about the explanations of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he understood he is not ordinary human being, and he submitted to him. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed his transcendental form to him, six arm. Then Sarvam Bhattacharya understood everything. Then he said to Gopinath Acharya, yes, now I can understand what you were saying. So we are hearing these descriptions, but we have to receive them through oral reception. We have to hear with faith, and then when we can realize what is meant, then we will understand. But we should not try to judge by intelligence or try to use some material imagination how this is and it cannot be and all these things. This will be obstacle. So with firm faith, we have to hear, accept, even if we don't understand, and gradually that we can understand by His mercy. So here we also find that the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore He is the supreme shelter. We are always dependent. Purushodam vinirbhidya yadaso sa vinirgataha atmano yanam anvichan apo srakshich chuchi shuchi. After separating the different universes, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, Mahavishnu, which came out of the causal ocean, the place of appearance for the first Purusha avatar, entered into each of the separate universes, desiring to lie on the created transcendental water, that is Garbhodaka. First Mahavishnu, then he enters into each universe as Garbhodaka, Garbhodakashaya. Tasvavatsit sva shrishtasu sahasram parivatsaran tena narayano nama yat apah purushodbhava. The Supreme Person is not impersonal and therefore is distinctively a Nara, that is a person or a person. Therefore, the transcendental water created from the Supreme Nara is known as Nara. And because he lies down on that water, he is known as Narayan, lying on that water. Dravyam karma chakalascha svabhavo jiva evacha yat anugrahatah santi nasanti yat upekshaya. One should definitely know that all material ingredients, activities, time, and modes, and the living entities who are meant to enjoy them all exist by His mercy only. And as soon as He does not care for them, everything becomes non-existent. Again, they will be merged into Him. Here in comment, the living entities are therefore completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, and all their so-called enjoyments by scientific improvement are crushed into dust when the Lord desires. Our Gurudev many times taught, even this sense enjoyment in this world you cannot get without His grace. Everything is by His sanction you cannot get. And our Gurudev also liked to say, once in America, Sai Maharaj was speaking Harikatha in some public place. Then one young man was also listening. Then in between, he stood up and said loudly, Swamiji, I don't believe in God. In challenging mood. Then Sai Maharaj replied also fearlessly, and from realization. He said, who has given you the power to say, I don't believe in God? If he withdraws that power from you, can you say, I don't believe in God? You cannot say. Here, Sai Maharaj is telling that all are crushed into dust when the Lord desires. We are all dependent on Him for everything. So we are having this false vanity, false pride. Then we have to be taught through different lessons by Supreme Lord that we are not independent. Those who accept their natural position in relation to Supreme Lord, they only can be peaceful and happy. Others who think they are separate enjoyers, independent and powerful and like this, they always have to undergo suffering. Eventually, that reaction is all the time coming by enjoyments, and also ultimately you lose everything at the time of death, and even before also during lifetime, and then during universal dissolution, all this is happening. Here also in Katha Upanishad, because our Gurudev used to quote, there is one verse which Gurudev used to quote, Shreyascha Preyas, that verse, this from Katha Upanishad. For human beings, there are two paths of Shreya and path of Preya. Shreya means that which is beneficial or that which is eternal welfare, and Preyas is that path which is sense enjoyment. In the beginning it is pleasing, but ultimately it will be poison. And majority of people in this world, almost all, they are supporters of Preya's path. So there was one king, he had this son, Nachiketa, and he was offering in charity, doing karma kant, but Nachiketa was having that firm faith in eternal reality. So I don't want to tell the whole story. So ultimately, Nachiketa asked, Father, where you will donate me? And he said in such a way that his father became angry, and he told, I will offer you to death. To him I will offer you. Then boy said, yes, very good. Then he was offered to Yamaraj. And Yamaraj was busy, so Nachiketa had to wait for some time. But when Yamaraj came and he saw he's a Brahmin, then he apologized. I could not receive you properly, so now you request some boons from me, 3 boons, because you had to wait 3 nights. I will fulfill you, so in this way I will be freed from offense. So Nachiketa then told him that his father should not be angry on him, and he wants to know about eternal welfare, liberation of Jiva, and like this. Then Yamaraj first, he said that is very difficult topic. No one can understand. Even demigods cannot understand. So you release me from this boon. It is very difficult to. I can give you wealth, I can give you ladies, I can give you kingdom, I can give you a long lifespan, as much as you want to live, I can give you like this. He was testing him. But Nachiketa said, that will not last for more than 1 day. That will not last till tomorrow. Means it is all temporary. I don't want that. I want you explain to me about liberation of Jiva and what Jiva does when liberated. All this. Then Yamaraj understood he's really qualified for eternal welfare. Then he started to teach him. But first he allured him with all these non-eternal things to test him. He offered. So all this is, here Sai Maharaj is saying, all these so-called enjoyments by scientific improvement are crushed into dust when the Lord desires. It is all temporary. So the wise persons, Katha Upanishad, that verse says, the wise persons, dhiras, understanding both paths, they accept the path of emancipation and reject the path of bondage, that hedonism, sense enjoyment, all that thing, the wise person. So one such wise person was this Nachiketa, and he wanted to know and how he can attain that. So Jamaraj, he taught him everything. So we should face the facts boldly. All this is temporary, non-eternal, and cannot satisfy us. So to spend our time and energy only to acquire all these material things, thinking that will give us happiness, that is foolishness, according to Katha Upanishad. And wise persons will want eternal welfare. That does not mean they will stop eating, stop drinking. No, but they will do proper lifestyle, which is favorable for devotion to Krishna. In that way they will live in this world, but not as one who is foolish and thinking only that is, I have to get more and more and as much as possible, and that will give me happiness. That is foolishness. Eko nanatvam anvichan yoga talpat samutitaha viryam hiranmayam devo maya vyasrijat tridha. The Lord, while lying on his bed of mystic slumber, generated the seminal symbol, golden in hue, through external energy out of his desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone. That is Hiranyamaya, golden. So this is the process of creation. This is his lila. We have to hear how this is happening. It is not like some coincidence, Big Bang, and all so many theories. Or some say it never started. Buddhists say it never started. So when it never started, there is no starter because they cannot believe in God. So many wrong philosophies you will find in Vedanta Sutra. Vyasadeva cuts all those wrong speculations coming from human mind about the source of everything and creation, maintenance, destruction. One cannot know. One can only know by the means of Shastra, means revealed knowledge, either by Shastra or realized soul, and the source of everything is Brahma. Atato Brahma Jigyasa Janma Dyasayata. From him everything this is coming, and here in Bhagavatam it is clearly described how Krishna in the form of Mahavishnu and then further two more Vishnus, they are doing this creation and then annihilation, all this. This is perfect knowledge. Adi Devam Atha Dhyatmam Adi Bhutam Iti Prabhu Athaikam Paurusham Viryam Tridha Vidyata Tachrinu. And also Sai Maharaj told this is scientific knowledge. It can be proved. If you follow the process, then you can realize these things. It is not theory or some belief or something. If you do experiment, means you follow the process, observation and experiment, then you can realize. But all those theories which are given by others, they can never be proved. They have no evidence. Only they believe it like that, but they cannot prove. This can be proven provided you are ready to do experiment and observation. Just hear from me how the potency of his lordship divides one into three, called the controlling entities, the controlled entities, and the material bodies in the manner mentioned above. Antah Sharira Akashat Purushasya Vicheshtataha Ojah Saho Balam Jagye Tatah Prano Mahan Asuh. From the sky situated within the transcendental body of the manifesting Mahavishnu, sense energy, mental force, and bodily strength are all generated, as well as the sum total of the fountainhead of the total living force. Anu prananti yam pranah pranantam sarva jantushu apanantam apananti naradevam ivanugaha. As the followers of a king follow their lord, similarly, when the total energy is in motion, all other living entities move. And when the total energy stops endeavoring, all other living entities stop sensual activities. Yes. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. Swami Maharaj is telling, he is explaining. Prane na kshipata kshut trit antara jayate vibho pipasato yakshatascha pran mukham nirabidyata. The living force, being agitated by the Virat Purusha, that is gigantic, that body of Supreme Lord, generated hunger and thirst. And when he desired to drink and eat, the mouth opened. If you remember, some time ago, on the disappearance day of Madhvacharya, we heard that he's our Guru before, in our Guru Parampara, previous Guru, who just before his disappearance, means while explaining Aitareya Upanishad, he disappeared from this world. That is his disappearance. So in that, when we were hearing that Aitareya Upanishad, that was mentioned, if you remember, that he made that forum, and then hunger and thirst, and then demigods, they said, you give me something to eat, and he gave, but they said that is not enough, and like this, that description is there. And in one Upanishad also, how food is taken. It cannot be taken by eye, it cannot be taken by air, like this. Prana only can take. Mukata stalu nirbhinam jihva tatro pajayate tato nana raso jagye jihvaya yo digamyate. From the mouth the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this, all the different tastes came into existence, so that the tongue can relish them. Vivakshor mukato bhumno vachnirvak vyachritam tayo jale chaitasya suchiram nirodach samajayata. When the Supreme desired to speak, speeches were vibrated from the mouth. Then the controlling deity fire was generated from the mouth. But when he was lying in the water, all these functions remained suspended. Nasike nirabidhyetam dodhuyati nabasvati tatra vayur gandavaho grano nasi jigrikshataha. Thereafter, when the Supreme Purusha desired to smell odors, the nostrils and respiration were generated, the nasal instrument and odors came into existence, and the controlling deity of air, carrying smell, also became manifested. Yadatmani niralokam atmanam cha didrikshataha nirbinne hyaksinitasya jyotish chakshur guna graha. Thus, when everything existed in darkness, the Lord desired to see himself and all that was created. Then the eyes, the illuminating God, sun, the power of vision, and the object of sight all became manifested. Bodhya manasya rishibir atmanastach jigrikshataha karno cha nirabidyetam dishak shrotram guna grahah. By development of the desire of the great sages to know, the ears, the power of hearing, the controlling deity of hearing, and the objects of hearing became manifested. The great sages desired to hear about the self. This is also on these topics in Upanishads. Who is controlling? Some God is controlling I and all air, and who is controlling what? Vastuno mridu kathinya lagu gur oshna shitatam jigrikshatas tvan nirbina tasyam roma mahiruha tatra chantar bahir vatas tvacha labda gunovrita. When there was a desire to perceive the physical characteristics of matter, such as softness, hardness, warmth, cold, lightness, and heaviness, the background of sensation, the skin pores, the hairs on the body, and their controlling deities, the trees, this is mentioned there, were generated. Within and outside the skin is a covering of air through which sense perception became prominent. Hasto Ruru Hatu Stasya Nana Karma Chikirshaya Tayos tu Balavan Indra Adanam Ubayashrayam. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength, and Indra, the demigod in heaven, became manifested, as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigod. Gatim jigi shataha padau ruruhate bikamikam padbhyam yagya swayam havyam karma bhi kriyate nribi. Thereupon, because of his desiring to control movement, his legs became manifested, and from the legs the controlling deity named Vishnu was generated. By his personal supervision of this act, all varieties of human beings are busily engaged in dutiful occupational sacrifices. Nirabidyata Shishnovai Prajananda Mritarthinaha Upasta Asit Kamanam Priyam Tat Ubaya Shreyam. Thereupon, for sexual pleasure begetting offspring, and tasting heavenly nectar, the Lord developed the genitals, and thus there is the genital organ and its controlling deity, the Prajapati. The object of sexual pleasure and the controlling deity are under the control of the genitals of the Lord. That is from Virat Purusha, everything is coming. Then manifesting here. Yes. Utsi srikshor dhatu malam nirabidyata vaigudam tatah payus tato mitra utsarga ubayashraya. Thereafter, when he desired to evacuate the refuse of eatables, the evacuating hole, anus, and the sensory organ thereof developed along with the controlling deity Mitra. The sensory organ and the evacuating substance are both under the shelter of the controlling deity. Here Sai Maharaj is telling in commentary, even in the matter of evacuating stool, the refuse is controlled. So how can the living entity claim to be independent? That is only when we are in Maya, we think we are independent. But everything is done by will of Krishna and through this all demigods and everything. So you will find there in some Upanishad, I forgot now which one, the senses, they were trying to understand who is supreme or who is the best. And then one sense went away, but they were living normally, other. Then when he came back, he said, how you could live without me? Then they said, like one numb person. If tongue went, then we did not speak. And some others, genital went like this, so all came back and others could live without that. But only when prana left, then everything stopped. No one could do anything. So then it was concluded that prana is the chief. Without prana, no sense can do anything. They are all subordinate. Like these descriptions are there through these descriptions, and it is true because there are certain demigods who are controlling the senses. So they were doing this. They were speaking. It is not fictitious mythology, our Gurudev told, but we have to realize all these things. It is scientific knowledge. So here, Shukadev Goswami is only giving in essence, because SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is the quintessence of all scriptures. Everything we will find in Bhagavatam, but these things are mentioned in brief only, not with much explanation and all this, because that Leela of Supreme Lord is to be described, but he is describing from creation Leela up. This is also Leela of Supreme Creation and sub-creation and all this, and how everything is going on by his will, then how he appears in this world, different avatars to protect all this, and then also that transcendental Leela, everything is described, which you will not find in other scriptures. There is only mentioned. If someone meditates, then he can understand. He can realize. There Om is mentioned, you have to meditate. Then from Om everything you will see. Our external meaning, our Gurudev told that I can tell you some external meaning, but you cannot know. You have to get revelation, then you can understand. External meaning is to give us some indication. But if we take that indication for pride, that we know everything, then that is not beneficial. That is why Gurudev, certain things he did not explain to avoid this. Because we like to gather information, to be proud, I know so much. But Gurudev wanted to let us know that that is not real, you cannot get real knowledge in that way. By gathering some informations, more and more, and then you will be proud, I know. No, you cannot know in that way. That is only external meaning. Through surrender, you will realize. And that realization has got no end. So never you can be proud. Asis Ripso Purah Purya Nabidvaram Apanata Tatrapanas Tato Mrityu Pritaktvam Ubayashrem, that apanayar. Thereafter, when he desired to move from one body to another, the navel and the air of departure, here it is translated, that is apana. There are 5 airs there, and one is chief, the mukhya prana. Air of departure and death were combinedly created. The navel is the shelter for both, namely death and the separating force. Here, just to get the prana vayu continues the life, and the apana vayu stops the living force. There are 5 in that. So this is Adit Sor Annapananam Asan Kukshantra Naraya Nadyah Samudras Chatayos Tushtih Pushtis Tat Ashre. When there was a desire to have food and drink, the abdomen and the intestines and also the arteries became manifested. The rivers and seas are the source of their sustenance and metabolism. Here, the controlling deities of the intestines are the rivers, and also the arteries, the seas. Therefore, the body's health is dependent on healthy actions of the intestines and the arteries. The rivers and the seas, being the controlling deities of the two, keep the intestines and the arteries in healthy order. So if you want to get health, then you can worship them. Then they can give you. But we are getting bad health due to past some actions. But if you worship, also you can change that. Nididhyasar Atmamayam Hridayam Nirabidyata Tato Manas Chandra iti Sankalpa Kama Evacha. When there was a desire to think about the activities of his own energy, then the heart, which is the seat of the mind, the moon, determination, and all desire became manifested. Generally, we think in Western countries that mind is in the brain, but it is not. Its actual location is in the heart of mind. Sometimes you can feel that if you are in meditation, then you can understand. So, moon is the presiding deity of mind. So all this was manifested gradually by the will of Krishna. Tvak charma mamsa rudira medo majasti dhatavah bhumi ap tejo maya sapta prano vyo mambu vayubhi. The 7 elements of the body, namely the thin layer on the skin itself, the flesh, blood, fat, marrow, and bone, are all made of earth, water, and fire, whereas the life breath is produced by the sky, water, and air. That is prana. Prana is made of these 3, and that is made of those. Gunatmaka nindriyani bhutadi prabhava guna manah sarva vikaratma buddhir vijnana rupini. The sense organs are attached to the modes of material nature, and the modes of material nature are the products of the false ego. The mind is subjected to all kinds of material experiences, happiness and distress, and the intelligence is the feature of the mind's deliberation. Once our Srila Brihad Bhrati Maharaj told, all this happiness and distress, that is all in the mind. And when one desire is fulfilled, another is coming, and they are like torrents. So I could not understand what he is speaking, because I am not on that level of consciousness. But if someone is in elevated consciousness, then he can understand about this. So that is why they can tolerate and they can give up all these desires and all this. Then when we can raise ourselves to that consciousness, then we can also understand that all kinds of material experiences, happiness and distress, are in the mind. And the intelligence is the feature of the mind's deliberation. Here, Sai Maharaj also telling, mind is the instrument for feeling different material experiences. But intelligence is deliberative and can change everything for the better. The intelligent person therefore can attain salvation from the illusion of material existence by proper use of intelligence. An intelligent person can detect the awkward position of material existence and thus begin to inquire as to what he is, why he is subjected to different kinds of miseries, and how to get rid of all miseries, and thus, by good association, an advanced intelligent person can turn towards the better life of self-realization. It is advised, therefore, that an intelligent person associate with the great sages and saints who are on the path of salvation. By such association, one can receive instructions which are able to slacken the conditioned soul's attachment for matter, and thus the intelligent man gradually gets rid of the illusion of matter and false ego and is promoted to the real life of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Our Gurudev also told that if you associate with these worldly minded people, then you will also desire like them, these worldly things. You will think this is what is required. Only if you get association of real devotee who is tasting the nectar of service of Krishna, he can inspire you for that path of eternal welfare. In the beginning, it may seem like poison, because you will have to restrict your sense enjoyment. But ultimate result will be nectar. But that sense enjoyment, in the beginning, it seems like nectar, but consequence is poison, continuous suffering. So here in this Canto Upanishad, this verse is there, two paths, and those who are dhiras, means sober persons or intelligent persons, they will accept the path of eternal welfare, path of emancipation. Etat bhagavato rupam stulam te vyahritam maya mahyadi bishchava raner ashtabir bahir avritam. Thus, by all this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by gross forms such as those of planets, which were explained to you by me. Atah param shukshmatamam avyaktam nirvisheshanam anadi madhya nidhanam nityam van manasah param. Therefore, beyond this gross manifestation is a transcendental manifestation finer than the finest form. It has no beginning, no intermediate stage, and no end. Therefore, it is beyond the limits of expression or mental speculation, and is distinct from the material conception. That is eternal reality, and we are sons of that eternal reality. We belong to that soil. Now we are in foreign land, in illusion. So it is not our business to make to make comfortable life here. No, this is wrong. This is not our home. We have to go back home, back to Godhead, to eternal realm, not to make life comfortable in this world, to think that will fulfill us. No. Only as much as is necessary for your devotional practice, that much. Because our target is to come out from this, not to remain inside comfortably. So tomorrow is Ekadashi, so we'll hear further about Supreme Lord.